I'm excited that I am unleashed from the corporate world. I often would get into conflict because I think I have an ability to see a little further down the road than maybe the average person. And I would say, why are we doing X, Y, and Z when I can so clearly see that that isn't going to work or that isn't going to scale for the future? And a lot of people that I worked with would become frustrated with me. They would say, that's just not a concern right now, or you need to be more present. So now that I'm on my own, that skill set, that gift that I have is unleashed, and I no longer have to edit it, manipulate it, manage it to keep me out of trouble.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us on Giant Steps with Leilani Brown. I have so much information about you, Rachel, but I'm going to read a little bio or reference a bio that we had put together from the auto industry crisis of 2008 to the front lines of financial regulation after Bernie Madoff. My guest today, Rachel Tully, has seen what happens when institutions are tested. She's worked at Ford, Tesla, the SEC, Venmo, and now helps AI-enabled businesses navigate growth. She's also built a powerful career philosophy that we're going to talk about, the Boa Constrictor Approach, where I think we can all learn from the Boa Constrictor Approach and how she really identifies and surrounds an opportunity that she wants and goes after it. And now she's in Reinvention again. And so it's really a wonderful opportunity to welcome her to Giant Steps with Leilani Brown.
Big change doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes it starts with a single step. That's why I'm excited to host leaders, innovators, great thinkers, and everyday people sharing their stories and practical insights you can use right now. Wherever you are in your journey, whether you're just starting out, looking to make a pivot, or ready to reinvent yourself, you'll find both information and inspiration right here. This is Giant Steps, and I'm Leilani Brown.
How you doing?
I'm good, Leilani. Thank you. Wow. I had no idea I did all those things.
Right, I know.
You.
It's kind of cool, right? When other people
Yes.
hold the mirror up to you because, and we're going to talk about that. How do you reframe your experiences into a solid narrative about yourself? But it's sort of interesting to see how people look at it, right?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So let's start from the beginning and your career start at Ford. What was that like? What did you do? And what did it teach you? Because you were doing it at a time of crisis, which is not in some ways dissimilar to what we're going through right now. So take us back to the days at Ford.
Yes. So I started my career at Ford Motor Company, but in their Washington, D.C. office, AKA the lobbying office on I Street, next to K Street. And I started there in 2007, and I could definitely feel the energy at Ford and in Washington, D.C., that something was rumbling, but I didn't know what. And over time, things just became more and more volatile in our markets. And when Lehman Brothers crashed, I didn't know what that meant at the time. I didn't know that that was a sign that our economy was in grave danger, and maybe was built upon things where the center was not holding anymore. And that Lehman Brothers, when they declared bankruptcy, that cascaded into all these other things, one of it which was the stock market crashing, and all of a sudden people closed their wallets and said, I'll buy a new car in a couple years after this all shakes out.
So hold on. Where were you at let's paint a picture. Where were you at that time? Because were you recently out of college and sort of full of optimism and hope and and expectation for this wonderful, what we thought stable entry point into business and industry? And you said you felt the energy shifting. What were the tells, and where were you at your career at that point?
Yeah, so I was fresh out of college, and I was an executive assistant. And that was hard for me to take the executive assistant role, I guess I thought I should be having a title that felt more senior or something like that. So happy to talk more about that.
Yeah,
and
let's
maybe
stay right
feeling-
there because I'm sure there's
Sure.
someone maybe listening to this that is facing, especially right now, right? Opportunities that might not seem like they're opportunities. I hate this term underemployed, which really some people use, right, for roles that don't necessarily require a college degree. I don't think it's underemployment. I think that those are great and wonderful experiences. But at the time in context, you're probably not feeling pretty accomplished. I mean, certainly you're not going to graduate from college and be the CEO, but you're not thinking in your mind that the entry point might be an EA.
Yes.
But you were in the belly of the beast. So you had to have learned some really valuable things. Do you now look back at least at that role and that title as being valuable, and in what ways?
Oh, yes. The most powerful person at any company is not the CEO, it is their executive assistant. They're the ones that manage the strategy of their time. And if you become friends with the executive assistant, you're good to go. So I have a very soft heart for executive assistants after going through the experience. I grew out of executive assistant into a scheduler role at the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. So it certainly did open doors for me. And from scheduler, I went to chief of staff, which I gave myself that title retroactively, by the way.
Okay. So your advice to a recent college grad is don't poo-poo those experiences necessarily as being too
Yes.
small or, not valuable or just a job that they might provide an entry point.
Correct. When I graduated, I probably thought I would be, a vice president or something. I don't know how maybe my ego got so inflated or the expectations, there was definitely a gap.
Yeah.
So yes, just get in the door and you'll figure the rest out.
I think executive assistants, just to stay on this for a beat more, have such a unique purview into what it is to be a senior executive.
Yes.
They are often the gatekeeper. They do keep the time in terms of making sure that things run smoothly. And they are well positioned to do a number of things later in their career because they've had exposure to everybody that's underneath that person, every function. And they understand. They also often know what's going down before it goes down.
Yes.
So you felt so I would say to anybody out there that's sort of looking for their first role out of college, and mine was in sales, right? But don't dismiss what you think is small because there's really nothing small. There are no small jobs. So you were there and you saw the rumblings. What did you do when it all went down? I remember the Sunday night, by the way. Well, I was eating pizza with friends, and we turned to the television on, and we saw people going in on a Sunday night into Lehman Brothers to collect their personal belongings because a crash was coming and it was really being televised in real time. But you saw the signs coming. What happened in that moment and in those moments?
Yeah, I definitely was watching the executives around me. And by the way, I was 23 years old and I was interacting with some of the most senior people in Fortune 10 companies at that time. So yes, that is a wonderful example of a role to not underestimate. So I was watching those around me very closely, trying to understand what was going on. I would see people sweating and their voices were shaking. They were becoming panicked as more and more as time went on. And I remember specifically that people were thinking that crash had just kicked off the next Great Depression, which of course was brutal in U.S. history. And it didn't turn out to be that level, but a lot of people were let go. A lot of people had to maybe, we might think of it as stepping down in their career, or it might be thought of in that way.
Right.
So like if you had a job selling houses, you might have had to switch to working at Target, for example, during that time period. It displaced a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then also housing. A lot of people lost their homes through that crisis.
Yeah. And so like 2008 was the trigger point, right? But I remember it going on and being described generally as the financial crisis. I was affected too. 2008, it really lasted until about 2011.
Yes.
The fallout of that. Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
What are some of the things that you wish you had known at that time? If you could tell yourself anything to reassure you at that time, because there's so many parallels to what we're going on right now. What we're going through right now in terms of our current markets, I think, is different for sure. We don't know what's going to happen, but there are parallels and similarities. What do you think you would tell yourself at 23 years old, and what would you tell a 23-year-old right now about what they're experiencing and encouragement even about moving forward?
Great question. I would say two things. First, the system is interconnected, and I can dig more into that in a second. And then second, I would tell myself to save my money. Save more in case of XYZ. And going back to the interconnected piece, Lehman fell because of all of these securities that had subpar home lending instruments inside of them. So that was step one. Step two was the banks packaging these bad loans together, selling them to Main Street. And then Lehman collapsed. All the other banks were very shaky as well. I think we forget that. And Lehman was kind of like the Goldman Sachs at that time.
Yes.
And then Americans, closed their wallets, and that had so many cascading effects for the wider economy. So I want to let young people know, especially if they're wondering how this feels, there can be a domino effect, or there may not be a domino effect. Our system is strong, even though it's on a shakier foundation than in years or decades prior, but it can absorb a lot of shocks.
Yeah. One of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you is because you went from the frying pan into the fire. And so you were in the auto industry as an executive assistant, and also rising into other roles during the financial crisis, which affected the auto industry. And then you went to work for the SEC. And at the time, you were working for a pioneer and a celebrated person who was, at the time, the first woman to run the SEC. So you moved from executive assistant, chief of staff, into this very difficult and complex role, working at the SEC. And at another time of crisis, the Bernie Madoff crisis, which was revealed to be a very large financial Ponzi scheme that also threatened the economies once again in the midst of all of that. So,
yes,
so it went on for some time. How did you end up going to the SEC?
Yes, so I was an executive assistant at Ford for this man, head of government affairs, and then I went to be the executive assistant for his wife at the SEC.
What was the same about going from Ford to the SEC at that time, and what was dramatically different?
Yes. So in my career, I have noticed, and I've also worked for it to be this way, I like working at places that impact people's daily lives, not just, a one-time purchase or a annual purchase, etc. I like working for places that are the fabric of our economy and our society. So the same energy I observed at Ford, Ford employed 400,000 people at that time, maybe even 500,000. So Ford felt a public duty, just like the SEC, to remain healthy. It knew that it was a major contributor to the economy at that time. So going to the SEC, the public service was dialed up, and I was working for Mary Shapiro, who was one of Obama's first appointees, and she came in as the SEC was licking its wounds after maybe missing some of the signals leading up to the financial crisis, and the SEC had missed the Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. Bernie had actually informed the SEC of his own scheme. So it was a very low time for the agency, which was established during the Great Depression to bring more transparency and health to our financial markets. So I had a front row seat seeing how Mary was a key contributor to restoring the financial economy. She did so many incredible things. She's an independent, and I think that was a huge strength because she could work with the Republicans and Democrats on the commission as well to work to find the middle way, the third way, some say. And then from there, my partner at the time got into law school in Philadelphia. She got a full ride. So we had to move to Philly. Yes. Yes, I was proud of her. And so I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Philly, compared to Washington, D.C., just didn't have that level of economic opportunity that I was used to. So the SEC had a satellite office in Philadelphia, and a mentor at the SEC in the DC office said, do not quit. Do not quit. We're just going to transfer you to Philadelphia and then see if you can find something in that office so you don't have to reapply through USA Jobs. So that was very good advice. These intra-company, intra-organization moves. Happy to talk more about that. And
well, let's talk about that, right? Because
Sure.
that has to come from reputation and relationship. It's easier, right, in many ways to find opportunity within the organization. And rather than making a change on your own or the company making a change, what did you do in your time at the SEC that would signal that you are a person who's capable, ready, and they were positively predisposed to move you to other opportunities? Were there some things that you did that you would remind others to do around reputation and relationships so that you have more options within the company?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I would say something that I unknowingly invested in my early career was polish. I would say I'm less polished now compared to my younger self. I don't know how I did it, but I bought clothes that felt very grown up. And I spoke, I think, more softly, but I felt like I was very elegant. And DC, as you know, I'm sure, you really have to dress up in that town, like in New York. So I think I had a good presentation level, and then I did what I said I was going to do. I think that's been a hallmark of my career. Sometimes that means upsetting people. If they ask me to do something and I say, hang on, I need to understand X, Y, and Z first. But that saves me on the back end.
Thank you for sharing that idea around really investing in personal presentation. And we're not talking about the fanciest of clothes, but I think that sometimes we dance around what's
Yes.
acceptable and what's not acceptable. And I think particularly post-COVID, that there is something that communicates about you before you open your mouth, and that is your physical and personal presentation. And it can take a variety of forms, but reading the cues of an organization and knowing what is valued and celebrated and making a decision to participate in that way is a very deliberate strategy around instilling confidence in
Yes.
your ability, your the idea that I can send you into any room and not be embarrassed, be proud of that. To sometimes it even conveys that you have developed even greater mastery than you actually have just by
Yes.
showing
A
up with that
costume.
level of effort. Right, right, right. But I don't think we talk about it enough. And quite frankly, I think that there are those who don't want to do it and defend it vigorously, and I think that's fine. But the practical advice of putting your best foot forward cannot be understated.
Absolutely. There have been times when I've done several job searches without a job. Uh, I have a hard time focusing on doing my job and finding a job, but money has been tight during those times, and I would choose to like get my teeth whitened over some dinners out or something like that because it gave me like a feeling of a superpower
Mhm. And I
going
think
into
it boosts
these
the
rooms.
confidence too. I think you
Yes,
feel better, you present better. So I don't want to
yes,
go too much on a tangent, but I just think that that's something that people don't really talk about as a
yes,
differentiating factor when you are in a group of peers, and that you may have someone who says, "Hmm, you know what, Rachel has that it factor, or there's something about Rachel, and it makes you stand out in a really positive way." So, you know,
yes. All because
whoever's
you went to
listening to
Ann
this, take
Taylor's
whatever,
loft.
yes, take whatever you want from that conversation. But I think that that's really important. Um, so let's just talk about that job search. So you had then, you've had other jobs since then, and we can talk about those. But I do want to focus on this conversation relative to job searching and what you consider the boa constrictor approach. What is
Yes.
that? And how can our listeners learn from that when they're looking for a role right now? And I know what it is, but I want you to describe it. And I'm going to give a quick, sort of give away the solution here. What it does is a more effective way of applying for a role as opposed to
Mhm.
just sending an online resume. But what is the boa constrictor approach, and how can people use that in their own way to pursue opportunities that they want?
Yes. So I think we all know how a boa constrictor hunts its prey. It will identify its target. Let's say it's a bunny rabbit or something like that. And it will stalk its prey and then it will slowly move in and it will create a perimeter around the prey, and then it will just move closer and closer and closer, and it will suffocate its prey. And there it has lunch. So a lot of a lot of advice that we all are given is volume based when doing a
Mhm.
job search, like apply to as many places as possible.
Yeah.
Through my work as a career strategist for people navigating AI and general career uncertainty, I hear things like I've applied to 2,000 jobs. And of course, there's not much, they don't get much juice out of that squeeze. So I developed my own strategy after seeing some of my peers in business school. They would apply for really all 20 investment banks that they were targeting or that were hiring from my business school. And they were so exhausted and beaten down. And I remember saying to one of my peers, I said, why don't you just target like 5? And he was
Right.
like, I don't know. This is what you're supposed to do. So I first really employed the Boa Constrictor Approach when I moved to California without a job after business school at NYU, and I had my sights set on working at Tesla. This was 2015, back when Tesla was, I would say, like the sexiest brand going at that time. It was growing rapidly. We were still only producing the luxury vehicles. And yeah, I kind of did the opposite of what my peers were doing. I went all in on Tesla. And how I did that was I knew the only way to do that was through networking. So I would cold message people on LinkedIn once I was in California, and I would say, hello, we have, for example, my friend in common. And I am a recent graduate of business school. I would love to learn about the regulatory challenges you face in your job. Because my theory was that my automotive experience at Ford would be of value to Tesla. So that was intentional.
So not just you work there, I want to work there. Can you put in a word?
Yes.
But really specific, contextual conversation and outreach about your experience and why you were reaching out to that person. Brilliant.
100%.
Yes.
I knew that. I think I've learned the easiest way for someone, the golden rule. What is the, oh gosh, I'm forgetting it. I'll skip.
Do unto others as you would have them do to you.
I remember.
Is that the golden rule? I think it is.
Maybe this one is platinum or something, but make it as easy as possible for people to say yes to you.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I heard someone early on in my career call it the golden rule, but yeah, that's appropriated from the true golden rule.
Yes.
But I think I learned that in order for people to do what I wanted and needed them to do, I needed to make it about them, not me. And I knew, who wouldn't want to kind of complain about the regulatory challenges they're dealing with. That's some of the most difficult stuff in the workplace. So I messaged probably 20 people, probably more, knowing me, and said, I'm going to be at this specific Tesla office on Thursday. Could I talk with you for 15 minutes? And and keep in mind, I didn't have any appointments set up. I kind of created them. So once the first
little sly move.
I know.
It's an old sales trick. I'm going to be in your city. Do you have any time?
Yes, I'm going to be in your city for meetings. Yes, that sounds...
Which meetings? Meeting with you.
Yes. With all the LinkedIn connections, don't feel like you have to get permission from someone to reach out to someone else. Just go ahead and just say, we have this person in common and this person in common.
Right. And it's good to have a brokered introduction. So we really talk, what you're really describing is having an AI empowered or AI powered search, but not to default to that, to have a high human touch.
Yes.
And that's really, really important. If you think about what's happening right now, what's the one piece, and you're in this work as I'm in this work, right? What's the one piece of really great advice that's floating around out there? And what's the really bad advice? And I ask you that because, we just heard, as we're recording this last week, thousands of people are losing their jobs at a time from so-called big growing companies. Amazon laid off 30,000 employees. There are more at every single level. Other companies, there are others. So in those moments when you first lose your job, you're looking for all kinds of what should I do advice, right? And it's coming at you. What's some of the best advice that you're hearing out there, and what's some of the worst or, advice that you would resist?
Yeah, great question. And there is a lot of noise as AI is going mainstream. The economy is shaky and it's unpredictable, and companies are feeling increased pressure. All these things are happening at the same time. So I just want to validate that this market is truly unique.
Yeah.
We haven't seen anything like this before. And I would say the bad advice out there is yes, or the bad advice is everyone's going to lose their jobs because of AI. And then on the flip side, you won't lose your job because of AI. I hear a lot of people say AI is meant to help humans complete their work. I think that is horrible advice because it glosses over the nuance of what I think will happen. Some will keep their jobs and some won't because of AI. So that's the bad advice I recommend steering clear from. And I think that, yes or no thinking keeps people in a freeze state. So what's more likely to happen is job opportunities are going to change, and you should instead focus on how you can do things to align yourself with that wave. So something I advise my clients on all the time is to become a silver collar worker. That's a term I put forth using the collar framework that we
For
already
white
have.
collar, blue collar, pink collar.
Yes,
For healthcare,
there's a
yeah.
lot of collars.
There's a
Yes.
lot of collars.
And
I didn't
silver
mean to wear a
collar.
white collar today.
And I'm in blue. Perfect.
But silver collar means
Yes, silver collar is a former white collar worker who has started augmenting their work with AI.
I like that.
And so to a company, when they're, pulling up the layoff list, companies are very much starting to classify employees as white collar and silver collar, even though, they might not be saying, okay, who's silver collar? It's a brand new term, but I think what will happen is the white collar workers will be more vulnerable to layoffs because a silver collar worker, I think we can assume that on average is more productive than a white collar worker because they're boosting with AI. So a company, when comparing a white collar worker that's maybe worth 1 point to them comparing to a silver collar worker that might be worth 1.5 points as far as productivity, they're going to choose the worker with the greater productivity potential.
Yeah.
So
I think we can't afford to be so afraid of it, so angry about it, so frustrated with what's happening that we don't lean into it. We've just recognized first of all, we're already using AI, even if you don't use any of the generative models, right? Because it's being used on you. Every single time you do something, it's an AI enabled or on the way. How can a white collar worker or traditional white collar worker, let's say 10 to 15 years in their career, a so-called millennial white collar worker or Gen X white collar worker, start to acquire some skills to transition to the silver collar category and not only create more options perhaps where they are, or put them in a category where they're seen as using it, or create more agility for future opportunities? What are some of the things that you can do on your own right now to become at least still more like a silver collar worker?
Yes. So what I recommend doing, I think will give a person transitioning from white to silver a real leg up. And that is We've learned that making money with AI is way harder than we thought collectively. It's just not that easy. So where AI is paying off for companies is cost savings. So like implementing AI tool that will allow the company to cancel 3 non-AI tools and save them money that way. So
So, for example, note taking, follow up
yes,
and actions, streamlining workflows. Those are all
yes,
things that each of us could do in our current jobs to demonstrate some AI mastery or expertise and usage to make us more valuable to our current workplaces.
yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Those are fantastic examples. So right now what's going on at companies is, CEOs are saying default to AI, and people are kind of running around with their heads cut off,
Mm-hmm.
just like, we need to implement AI, we need to have AI do this. Where I recommend focusing on is on specifically saving your company a dollar amount by implementing AI tools. So a lot of people will implement AI, but it won't make the company money or save the company money. It will maybe improve a process, but
Mm-hmm.
if you can't find a quantifiable dollar value from your AI projects or work,
Mm-hmm.
then move on.
Mm-hmm.
Look until you find something that would deliver monetary value. So then you become not just a silver collar worker, but also a bottom line silver
Mm-hmm.
collar worker. I
Mm-hmm.
think that will really differentiate you from a lot of other people who are just throwing spaghetti at the wall
Mm-hmm.
with different AI tools or ideas.
Yeah. I suspect that if you've worked for a very, very large company, you can take the experience of working for a very large company and go to a smaller or medium-sized enterprise with those AI skills and big company experience and find more opportunities versus looking for the same thing again at another place. Do you think that that's true? Because that's what I'm feeling from your conversation and from what I'm seeing out there too with some of our clients.
Yes, absolutely. If you're moving from a huge, enormous company, or even just larger, and you want to target smaller companies that maybe are more chill, or they might not be either.
I mean, I don't know. Like on the small size, you can't be chill, but I'm thinking that I'm thinking that there's some expertise that you would have around systems, around clients, around deployment of different new products into the market that you would have as a result of being at a larger company that a smaller or mid-sized company might not have as a startup, for example. And so if you can couple that experience with the AI tools that you're just mentioning and leaning into AI, you probably can position yourself in a more valuable way.
Yes, absolutely. A key word you could say is, I worked at this company, there were this many employees, help them understand that you worked at a larger company, and share with them, the smaller company, that you know how to scale companies.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And by scale, I mean make bigger, grow them through operational efficiencies and operational advancements. And you can say, like, I know where the surprises are lurking. When you suddenly go from 50,000 to 500,000 customers, I would be able to help you reverse engineer process, setting up different processes or improving the processes that you do have, so you can avoid some of the landmines that I have seen at a larger company.
yeah. What are some of the things that you think are critical for people to future proof, if you can? I call it create agility, their career and make sure that they continue to have options. What are some of the things that you feel are critically important?
Yes. The number one advice I give to clients, prospective clients, friends, family is to diversify your income. I think the days of depending on one income through like a white collar role, those good old days I think are decreasing, and there's more risk of layoff now. So that's kind of counterbalancing the former, I would say, locked in safety of having a white collar role. So I'm a good example. I went from a one income job at Venmo, and I did encounter a lot of stress there. And I now know that it's likely because when something like a new leader came in or my positioning felt threatened, it was because I had just that one paycheck from Venmo. So increasing your income streams can decrease stress for you. So I had the one income stream, and now I have my own business as a career strategist. I also coach people who've just lost their jobs, and that demand for that role is recession proof. It actually increases, obviously, during recessions. And I'm also becoming a spin instructor. So I'm going from one income stream to three. So I have backup options if something were to happen to one of those income streams.
I would say probably 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that single job was everybody's approach, and that's what they were looking to do. I think you're absolutely right. I think that people will have a portfolio of work now earlier in their careers than they might have later. So I think it will be very normal for an early career, recent graduate even, to have 2 or 3 roles that are providing all of that income. And so it's a different way to think about it. I think that there can be a sense that you're not succeeding if you don't operate in the former. But I do think that freelance gig portfolio approach to work is becoming increasingly common. But it's hard. It's a really hard hustle. And entrepreneurship is not for everybody. So, and it's glorified, right? Let's say just it's really, really glorified. But portfolio work for you might look like consulting to a number of different companies or 2 part-time jobs that gives you a flexibility to pursue something else, or and in combination saving and cutting back and living below your means. So I think that those are also really good strategies. What do you say to your millennial peers who are facing these everyone's facing layoffs right now, but I would say that, at this midpoint, which arguably everyone was looking forward to, what do you say to the recently laid off person that may be facing what you face? What kind of advice do you have for them?
Yeah, I try to help my clients understand the larger factors that are, or like currents that are at play that led to maybe them being laid off or career uncertainty. For example, because being a company in the United States is stressful at this time, because the economy is unpredictable.
Do you encourage them to think globally or more broadly? That's one of the things that I would, is just what I'm finding, for every federal job loss, there is a need either on the contractor level or at the state level. So once we can get past the anger, right? Because that's one of the stages of grief.
Yes.
Recognizing where the opportunities might exist. If it's hard here, and it's hard everywhere, right? But maybe there are opportunities that might be more broad than what you think. Maybe they are global. Maybe they are non-US companies doing business here in the US.
Yes, absolutely. Maybe there's something abroad where you'd be uniquely valuable to a company overseas. I thought of my point I was going to make. As the economy is becoming more stressful and there's more pressure on companies operating in the U.S., org flattening is a tactic that companies are using to cut costs. So I don't think people always realize that just because you have a high salary does not mean that you are safe from layoff. If there's a cost reduction goal, the leaders at a company are going to put together people's salaries and however they can figure out to make up that cost reduction goal, they will. So millennials, Gen X, people who are at the management level, maybe a little above, maybe a little below, are layoff targets because the company is prioritizing the worker bees, the ones who produce the frontline work. So I shared that with people who are mid-level at companies who've been laid off. Like, this is a larger trend. This is not specific to you. Because being laid off, just like your last podcast host, you feel so much shame and it feels like such a personal attack. So I try to help people detach from that mindset. And then otherwise, on the hopeful side, I recommend diversifying your income streams. And if you're laid off, you kind of get to rebuild how you see fit. There's no rules as you rebuild. But, having privilege certainly helps, like if your spouse has the benefits, et cetera, that you can tap into. And then I recommend to people increasingly more so look into a business broker. There are so many baby boomers who want to retire, but they want to see their businesses have an enduring legacy. Purchase a business. You can get attractive loans to do that from the United States government. And you buy a business and the customer base. So that's a great way.
So as people look to retire, taking over these businesses, that's another thing. Yeah. Well, Rachel, what are you most excited about in the future?
I'm excited that I am unleashed from the corporate world. I often would get into conflict because I think I have an ability to see a little further down the road than maybe the average person. And I would say, why are we doing X, Y, and Z when I can so clearly see that isn't going to work or that isn't going to scale for the future? And a lot of people that I worked with would become frustrated with me. They would say, that's just not a concern right now, or you need to be more present. Let's solve for next month instead of years from now. So now that I'm on my own, that skill set, that gift that I have is unleashed, and I no longer have to edit it, manipulate it, manage it to keep me out of trouble. Now I get to let it shine. So I'm excited very much about that.
Well, we're really looking forward to it. Where can people reach you, find you if they want to work with you?
LinkedIn. I am Miss LinkedIn. I'm even thinking I don't need a website anymore. Just LinkedIn. That's where I am.
Thank you so much for being with us and sharing your story.
My pleasure, Leilani. Thank you for having this platform for all of us. It's so important.
Thank you.
This podcast is a production of Giant Steps, LLC, a company working at the intersection of strategy, culture, career, and education. I'm Leilani Brown, CEO and host of the show. Many thanks to Jaira Michael, our executive producer, and S. Maxwell Brown, producer and editor of this episode. You can learn more about our company at giantstepsllc.com. We hope you enjoyed this episode and others. Please be sure to follow, like, and share our show far and wide. Thank you for listening.